fell, a melodious bird cry was heard. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and could not help but widen their eyes. Look! They saw another sun appear in the sky, and it was charging towards Lin Bai at an extremely fast speed. When it got closer, everyone realized that it was not a sun but a huge bird that was emitting flames. The flames were like feathers that covered its body. They were vivid and fluttering in the wind. It was impossible to tell whether they were real or fake. The golden and yellow lights intertwined together, making it look extraordinary. The tail feathers were exceptionally gorgeous, dragging out a dreamy length in the air. The power it emitted was not to be ignored. It suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed the sun behind He Linsheng. Seeing this scene, everyone was completely dumbfounded. Someone said in disbelief, This is a red luan? Why is it different from what I usually see?" Indeed, not only was Lin Bai's red luan bigger than usual, even its gorgeous tail feathers were extraordinary, not to mention its flame-like feathers and the immense pressure. Rather than calling it a red luan, it was more like a phoenix. He Linsheng also did not expect that his attack would actually be neutralized by a bird. Moreover, it was directly swallowed. It was as if there was a resounding slap on his face. He clenched his fist tightly, and the veins on his forehead popped out. Boundless spirit energy instantly surged out of his body like waves, slowly condensing in the air, and another rising sun appeared behind him. "I don't believe that you can continue to swallow it." As soon as he said that, before the rising sun had even risen, Little Red smacked its lips and swallowed it. He Lin was so angry that he couldn't even finish his words. "You!" It tilted its head as if it was waiting to be fed. Everyone was speechless. One had to know that this wasn't something to eat, but a sword intent condensed with true fire. Even Bai he had to be careful with it. It was swallowed just like that. In fact, it took less than 10 seconds. It ate it just like that? There shouldn't be any problems, right? Everyone had a mysterious expression on their faces. However, He Linsheng's expression was darker than the bottom of a pot. "I don't believe that it can keep eating this. I'll stuff it until it dies." As soon as he finished speaking, he condensed his spirit energy again. Within a short period of time, he had already condensed 2 true fire intents. Even he was somewhat unable to endure it. A layer of fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. The sun that appeared this time was even larger, as if it occupied the entire sky. Even the real rising sun was forced to the side. Everyone could feel the awe-inspiring sword intent that came from within, mixed with the smell of the true sun fire. He Linsheng's hands were trembling, and he was unable to support this incomparably large sun. He roared angrily, "Come on! If you have the power, keep eating." Little Red opened its mouth wide. As expected, it swallowed again. However, this time, it was not as relaxed as before. As the saying goes, when the moon is full, it will be full. When the water is full, it will be at a disadvantage. Even a high-quality pet beast would find it difficult to withstand 3 true fire sword intents in a row, let alone this red luan. He Linsheng revealed a sinister smile when he saw the scene in front of him. "Do you think that just because your pet has the fire attribute, it can swallow my true fire sword intent? You're too greedy. After 3 consecutive attacks, it simply can't withstand such a huge force. Just wait for it to explode and die." Everyone's hearts couldn't help but tighten as they started to worry about the situation of the Scarlet Luan. On the contrary, its master, Lin Bai, wasn't worried at all. The Scarlet Luan's body grew bigger and bigger. Its abdomen was like a small fireball, faintly emitting a golden light. It was as if the true fire sword intent that it had swallowed earlier had not been digested and was starting to stir up trouble inside. He Linsheng's gaze was burning. He could not wait to see the outcome of the Red Luan's explosion. It must be a very beautiful scene when it's badly mutilated. Perhaps even your master will suffer a backlash. Lin Bai said casually, "Is that so? I'm so scared." Although he said that, his every action showed that he did not take He Linsheng's words to heart. It was more like a great humiliation. "All right, I'll wait and see how you're going to collect this bird's corpse." After He Linsheng said those harsh words, the Scarlet Luan's body finally didn't disappoint him. It expanded several times its original size, and even its smooth feathers were stuffed to the point of exploding. It was as if it was about to explode and die. However, burp! A hot air current was set off in the air. At the same time, along with the Scarlet Wand's loud and clear voice, it opened its mouth and spat out a small fireball, which dispersed randomly in the air. Everyone was stunned at first, and then they couldn't help but laugh out loud. So it's indigestion? I thought it was something, but it's just a burp. Why is there the danger of exploding and dying? I understand. Burping means exploding and dying. Looks like we have to be careful in the future. Everyone's words were obviously teasing. Lin Bai was completely dumbfounded. He looked at the red Luan in disbelief. How is it possible? It swallowed 3 of my true fire sword intent. How can it be safe? The Scarlet Luan was lively and well. It seemed that the threatening words from before were like a joke. Lin Bai's face was green and white. Lin Bai teased, I'm sorry. Little Red was a little stuffed just now. That's why it's like this. It's not as exaggerated as some people say. Now that it has already digested it, I think it might still want to eat more true fire sword intents. Little Red cooperated and nodded. An extremely human-like light flashed through its beast eyes, and the only thing missing was the word gluttonous written all over its face. True fire sword intent was not some cabbage that could be seen everywhere. It was already not bad for someone with high talent to be able to condense 2. And condensing 3 was Lin Bai's limit. At this moment, his face was as pale as paper, and sweat poured down like rain. His back had long been drenched. These words posed great lethality to Lin Bai. He clenched his fist so tightly that it creaked, and directly took out a pill. All right, I'll let you eat enough. A faint medicinal fragrance floated around. It was a pill that could allow one to recover their spirit energy. As expected, Lin Bai's complexion recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, he once again gathered all the spirit energy in his body. However, he had learned his lesson this time. The incomparably huge sun rose, but it was divided into countless tiny sparks. Dragging its tail, it galloped towards the Scarlet Wand. Within the firelight that blotted out the sun, one could see countless figures of swords. They carried a destructive force. It was as if everyone was looking at a meteor shower again. The fire meteors that blotted out the sun were far more aggressive than the previous blazing sun. Although they were divided, their power did not decrease. If you have the power, you can continue to swallow them. The Scarlet Wand could devour the sun from before, but could it swallow the fire meteors that filled the sky? There were so many of them. Everyone was also thinking about this question. Soon, the Scarlet Wand gave a satisfactory answer. It flapped its wings, causing a huge airflow in the air. At the same time, it took a deep breath. The fire meteors seemed to have been summoned and rushed into the bird's mouth. The Scarlet Wand stood still as if waiting for the fish to take the bait. Those fire meteors fell into its mouth one after another. What was this? Everyone was amazed. Lin Bai asked with a smile, How is it? Are you satisfied with what you saw? Lin Bai's face was so angry that it was crooked. Condensing the true fire sword intent required a large amount of spiritual qi. The energy he had just recovered from the pill had disappeared again. He swallowed the pill again without hesitation. Logically speaking, the medicinal effects of the pill he had swallowed just now had not been fully released. If he swallowed another similar pill in a short period of time, the effects would be greatly reduced. However, he could not care less. White light suddenly appeared in the air. It was so piercing that one could hardly open their eyes. A long sword made of flames appeared in everyone's sight, as if it was a divine artifact from ancient times. The flames were raging, as if they were the purest flames extracted from the center of the sun. Even the temperature had become distorted due to the scorching temperature, burning everything in the world. Lin Bai, however, held it in his hand without hesitation. His sword seemed to have melted and covered it. His entire aura suddenly changed. The hearts of the people from the other academies could not help but thump when they saw this. He held the long sword in his hand and thrust it into the ground with a crushing force. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Sand and stones flew. Countless gullies appeared on the ground. One after another, deep gullies appeared on the ground. It was as if a bottomless wound had appeared. One could vaguely see something flowing inside. At the same time, countless white gases were emitted from the surface of the ground. The temperature was almost unbearable. What the hell is in there? The crowd wanted to take a closer look. The ravine was getting deeper and deeper. There was dark red liquid was surging. It was actually boiling lava. Countless lava spewed out from the ground like a fountain, forming pillars of fire in the air. Some people were accidentally scraped by the gas, and their skin and flesh immediately tumbled, revealing extremely terrifying wounds. Everyone was shocked. Even the ground beneath their feet became boiling hot. It was as if they were not stepping on the ground, but in a pot of oil. They could faintly smell the smell of burning. The seemingly random pillars of fire stood on the ground, but in fact, they contained the laws of the 5 elements, forming a huge formation that surrounded the red Luan. Even the feathers on the edges of its body became curly. True fire sword intent, plus the 5 elements formation. I don't believe you can escape. Lin Bai thought that victory was in his grasp, but the Scarlet Luan was not afraid of the heat. It pecked directly on the fire pillar as if it was drinking water. The magma within was actually sucked down just like that. One fire pillar after another could not escape the fate of being sucked dry. There were no magnificent and powerful moves, just pecking. Lin Bai was almost defeated. When everyone saw the scene in front of them, they laughed until their faces hurt. After absorbing so many true fire sword intents, the red Luan's feathers became even brighter and more gorgeous. The true fire sword intents were originally powerful, but now they had become nourishing things. Lin Bai said very sincerely, "You're really a nice person. You gave so many things to my pet beast. I'll send you to your death. Do you want it or not?" Lin Bai almost fainted from anger. This was throwing a stone at his own foot and making a wedding dress for others. Lin Bai knew the principle of hitting the weak spot of the snake. Every sentence was aimed at Lin Bai's heart. At this moment, his eyes were bloodshot and blue veins were exposed. He looked a little terrifying. He took one pill after another, and before the effects of the medicine could be fully displayed, his spiritual power was squandered. This cycle repeated itself and would cause indelible damage to the body. All those who quickly recovered spiritual power or increase one's cultivation strength in a short period of time would have to pay a certain price afterwards. Not to mention, Lin Bai's actions. He did not meditate to recover, but continued to consume the medicine. It was simply suicide. Lin Bai knew that this kind of medicine would exhaust one's strength for an entire day afterward. If the situation was more serious, one's cultivation level might even drop drastically. Lin Bai, who was blinded by hatred, chanted a spell silently, wanting to form the true fire sword intent again. The shadow of the red sun slowly appeared behind him. However, not only was the light slightly dim this time, but it was also uneven. It was more like a setting sun. Even the fire inside was like a small spark. All in all, the power was greatly reduced. Lin Bai had used up a lot of his spirit energy, and his hands were trembling violently. However, before he could last a second, the sun seemed to have been doused with cold water. A small spark jumped out of the air and then disappeared. Lin Bai tried again, and the situation was still the same. Seeing that he was still planning to take more pills, the servant beside him could not help but advise him, "Young master, forget it. If this continues, you won't be able to take it. Get lost." Lin Bai did not appreciate his kindness at all. His expression was dark. Even the servant was shocked. Spiritual power burst out from his palm, wanting to push the person beside him away. The servant's face revealed a fearful expression. However, the palm wind was just inches away from him, but it suddenly dissipated. Nothing happened. He was actually already so weak to this extent. Lin Bai's body trembled, as if he had suffered a great blow. His eyes were filled with disbelief, but Lin Bai was still mocking him. "You've taken so many pills, yet you can't even defeat my pet beast. I advise you to wash up early and go home to sleep. Don't embarrass yourself out there." Lin Bai stared at him fiercely. If sight could kill, Lin Bai would have been beheaded. "Anyone can push you down now?" Looking at Lin Bai, who was slowly approaching, Lin Bai ignored the dissuasion of the people around him and tried to swallow another bottle of pills. However, the bottle was actually empty. He realized that the power in his body was empty. There was nothing left. The last bit of spirit energy in his meridians had been completely squeezed out. No matter how hard he tried to use it, there was no reaction. It was like a pool of stagnant water. He Linqing's eyes could not help but reveal a hint of panic. At this moment, he was like an ordinary person without spirit energy. He was even worse than an ordinary person. He tried more and more, but in the end, he actually spat out a large mouthful of blood. Even pieces of his internal organs came out. His body also began to sway, as if a gust of wind could blow him over. Everyone felt that they had vented their anger to the extreme. Now, He Linqing's fate was even worse than Chen Yan's and Bai He's. If it were not for the servants supporting him from the side, he might have already fallen to the ground. Lin Bai looked down at him. "Hand over the antidote, and I'll let you go." He Linqing revealed a sinister smile. It was unknown whether it was because of anger or pain, but his facial features became distorted. "You want the antidote? Dream on. I'm not having a good time, and neither are you." After saying that, he used his last bit of strength. His palm emitted a flame, and the original antidote bottle instantly turned into ashes. Lin Bai frowned. Just as he was about to grab him, he heard the shouts of the other disciples behind him. "Senior Brother Bai, what's wrong?" "Senior Brother Lin, quickly come over and take a look." Senior Brother Bai doesn't seem to be able to make it. Taking advantage of the moment when Lin Bai was distracted, white smoke suddenly emerged, covering He Linqing and the others. They could hear He Linqing laughing crazily like a ghost. "You guys can wait to be buried with him." When the smoke dispersed, there was no longer any trace of He Linqing and the others. All that was left was a chilling sentence. The crowd didn't have time to care about He Linqing's threat. Bai's face had turned from green to white, and he had lost consciousness. His eyes were closed. If it weren't for the slight undulation of his chest, he would have looked no different from a dead man. The situation wasn't optimistic. Lin Bai frowned. He saw a stream of black gas coming out of Bai's wound on his shoulder and spreading rapidly through his meridians. When he sent his spiritual power inside, it actually felt like it was being corroded. Lin Bai quickly withdrew his spiritual power. The spiritual power could no longer be retrieved and was contaminated by the poison. He could only let it dissipate in the air. What should we do now? When the poison enters Senior Brother Bai's heart, I'm afraid even the immortal would not be able to save him. There was still a weak ball of spiritual power in Bai's heart. However, judging from the intensity of the black cheese corrosion, it would not last long. We don't have the antidote on hand right now. Even if we can find an alchemist to refine it, it's too late. Everyone was as anxious as ants on a hot pot, not knowing what to do. Only Lin Bai leisurely took out a tattered small cauldron. "I'm sorry, I'm actually an alchemist." Many people remembered that Lin Bai had once refined pills in the mystic essence mystic realm and slapped their heads. "How could I forget about this? Isn't there a ready-made alchemist here? But we don't know the formula of the poison. How can we refine the antidote? Moreover, this poison is extremely fierce. It requires at least a third-grade alchemist to refine it." But Senior Brother Lin, after the battle just now, Lin Bai was probably more outstanding in the aspect of beast taming. Although everyone had seen him practice once in the mystic realm, but at the moment, it seemed that he didn't usually refine pills. Everyone had almost forgotten that there was such a thing. At that time, the medicinal pill that Lin Bai refined in the mystic realm was indeed good, but it wasn't enough for now. Moreover, the antidote pill wasn't as easy to refine as ordinary medicinal pills. If something went wrong, not only would they not be able to detoxify the poison, but they would also make things worse. In other words, it would become a deadly poison pill. For the sake of Bai's safety, everyone did not dare to take the risk. They could only say, "Senior Brother Lin, why don't we look for the nearest elixir store? There should be a doctor or an alchemist there. It would be easier to treat the problem then." Lin Bai raised his eyebrows. "Are you sure that he can hold on until then?" At this moment, Bai was barely hanging on by his breath. Even his breathing was barely discernible. Seeing this, everyone was terrified, afraid that he would stop breathing in the next second. Lin Bai ignored everyone's doubts and began to use the small broken furnace to refine medicinal pills. It's been a long time since I've refined medicinal pills. I don't know if I'm rusty or not. I hope the furnace won't explode. Hearing Lin Bai's words, everyone felt that Bai's chances of survival were even more slim. They couldn't help but reveal worried expressions, especially the sword cultivator students. They had almost given up. Now that they couldn't find any other alchemists, Bai was already on the verge of death. If they didn't save him, he would die. However, looking at Lin Bai's appearance, he didn't seem to be very reliable. He was holding a small, broken furnace, yet he still said such words. It was a dilemma. Forget it. It's better to save him now than to wait for death. Let's still believe in senior brother Lin, even though That disciple paused for a moment and looked at Lin Bai. He picked up the dust from his hands, placed it on the tip of his nose, and sniffed it carefully. They didn't know what he was doing, but his expression suddenly became complicated. He seems a little unreliable. There's nothing we can do about it. The others didn't suspect that Lin Bai would deliberately set Bai up. From his actions just now, they could tell that he wasn't that kind of person. Moreover, if he had made a move, he wouldn't have had to stand up for everyone just now. Otherwise, if it were in the past, this kind of childish action would have long been scolded to the point of blood and gore. The sword cultivator student was somewhat helpless and did not dare to ask Lin Bai how confident he was. He was afraid that Lin Bai would open his mouth and say that he was not even 10% confident. What everyone did not know was that the dust was the ashes left behind by the antidote pill that had been destroyed by He Linsheng. They did not know that Lin Bai had actually used some special method to preserve it. Just as everyone was sighing incessantly and did not know whether the move to let Lin Bai come and save them was right or wrong. On the other side, Lin Bai had already succeeded. All right, our luck isn't bad this time. We succeeded in the first batch, and there was no sign of the furnace exploding. That's it. Everyone was somewhat in disbelief. Their doubtful gazes fell on the small, broken furnace as if there was no temperature at all. They also didn't know whether the furnace was hot or not. They didn't know that Lin Bai was using true fire. On the surface, there didn't seem to be any changes, but the high temperature inside was locked, preventing it from spreading out. This was to achieve precise control. Its requirements of alchemy skills, cultivation, and techniques were even higher. However, how much time had passed? Even for high-level alchemists, they would need to spend a certain amount of time to refine this kind of antidote. Lin Bai didn't even spend half an hour. Everyone couldn't help but wonder if he was joking. Senior brother Lin, don't tease us. It's only been a little while. You should hurry up and refine the pill. Senior brother Bai really can't hold on for long. The people who were grateful to Lin Bai earlier were all somewhat dissatisfied at this moment. After all, there were priorities and priorities. This kind of moment was not suitable for joking. I beg you, senior brother Lin. Lin Bai looked at everyone in surprise. Instead, he felt that they were making a fuss. That's right. It's because he can't hold on for long that I increased the speed of refining pills. Is there anything wrong with doing this? Everyone looked at each other. This seemed to make sense. But were the pills that Lin Bai refined really fine? No matter what, let's take a look first. Lin Bai opened the furnace in front of everyone. There really was a medicinal pill inside. Perhaps it was because he was refining the detoxification pill, or perhaps it was some other reason. Not only was this medicinal pill completely black, but it was also mixed with some gray color. It was not like an ordinary medicinal pill either. A medicinal fragrance filled the air, and it was filled with an indescribable strange smell. Many people covered their noses and mouths. Can this be eaten? Seeing that Bai still had half a breath left, could it be that he had not even taken his last breath? Everyone looked at each other and hesitated for a moment. Lin Bai, on the other hand, was full of confidence. He picked up the medicinal pill and was about to feed it to Bai, but he was stopped by someone. Senior brother Lin, why don't we still? He was about to say that he still needed to look for a medicine shop or an alchemist, but Bai was convulsing all over, and even his face showed an expression of unbearable pain. The black chi became more and more ferocious, and the divine light protecting his chest also became dimmer, as if it was being eaten by some little bug. It was on the verge of collapse. Based on the speed of the black chi, the ball of spirit energy protecting his chest would completely dissipate in a moment. At the same time, the poison would enter his heart. Even if the medicinal pills in He Linxing's hands were not destroyed, he could no longer be saved. It was unknown who snatched the medicinal pill from Lin Bai's hand and stuffed it into Bai's mouth. So be it. I'll take this gamble. Seeing Bai swallow the medicinal pill, it was already too late to stop him. Everyone's heart was in their throats as they watched Bai's movements without blinking. However, he suddenly stopped breathing. Senior brother Bai. It's over. I told you that this pill was unreliable. Now that senior brother Bai is dead, how are we going to explain this to the dean and the elders? You have to know that senior brother Bai is the dean's favorite disciple. We'll definitely be finished when we go back. Everyone looked at Lin Bai with a hint of resentment in their eyes. They couldn't be blamed. After all, Lin Bai's various actions made people ridicule him to the extreme. Seeing that everyone seemed to have lost their parents, Lin Bai said helplessly, "He's not dead yet." Nonsense. I saw senior brother Bai die with my own eyes. How is it possible? As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of spiritual light enveloped Bai's body and dispersed the black, poisonous gas. At the same time, Bai's expression gradually recovered. He suddenly sat up from the ground. Look! There was another scream, and everyone hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound. Those who did not know would have thought that it was a corpse. What are you shouting for? I'm not dead yet. Bai's voice was not as weak as before. He glanced at Lin Bai beside him, and obviously knew who had saved him. Bai stood up and bowed to Lin Bai with the help of the people beside him. Thank you very much this time. If it weren't for Lin Bai's help, he would probably be dead now. Lin Bai waved his hand to show that he didn't mind. The heavy weight in everyone's hearts was completely lifted. They looked at Lin Bai with eyes filled with admiration and gratitude. All of them blushed from their previous doubts. Fortunately, they didn't say anything overboard at that time. Otherwise, they would not have the face-to-face Lin Bai at this moment. The Xiao family, Lin Bai and so many others had gone out. How could they not send someone to follow them? After all, the murderer had not been caught yet. What if he was hidden among them and was waiting for an opportunity to escape? Go and follow them and see what the situation is like. Soon, 2 of the people who were sent out returned. When they heard their report, Xiao Feng and a few elders were quite surprised. They actually had an argument with He Linxing. Although the He family was not on equal footing with the Xiao family, their strength could not be underestimated. Although He Linxing can't be compared to my son, he can still be considered pretty good among his peers. Since Bai was able to defeat him, it shows that his strength cannot be underestimated. Most importantly, Bai also used a sword. This made Xiao Feng think of the murderer who killed Xiao Yuqin once again. Although Bai's sword did not match the information sent by the fireflies, this possibility could not be ruled out if he had used another sword back then. In addition, Bai's master was Dean Zhao of the Sword Cultivation Academy. Perhaps he had already revealed some information, which was why Bai had hidden it so well. It was still unknown. It's just that Bai has been ambushed by He Linxing. Now that he's in imminent danger, the person who replaced him is Lin Bai. Hearing this name, the 3rd elder subconsciously frowned. Xiao Feng's expression did not reveal anything. Then who lost? Who won? The person who was following them shook his head, indicating that he did not know. We saw that the situation was not right, so we came back to report first that He Linxing did not come with good intentions. Regardless of whether they won or lost, I'm afraid he won't let them off easily. Therefore, we specially came to ask the family head to tell us if we should rescue them. Rescue? Xiao Feng sneered. It's already the greatest gift to them that I don't kick them when they're down. They still expect me to save them. If it were not for the Xiao family's troubled times, Xiao Feng would rather kill 1,000 people by mistake than let 10,000 people off. Let them go. It's just a few people with low spiritual power who died. Moreover, these people have nothing to do with our Xiao family at all. The coldness in Xiao Feng's tone made people shudder. It did not matter even if all those people died. It seemed that he was not afraid of the people from the 4 major colleges coming to find trouble. It made sense when he thought about it. If they wanted to find trouble, they should look for the He family. Moreover, he did not think that there would be anyone with profound cultivation in such a small place to uphold justice for them. At this moment, the servants outside the door reported that they had returned. The few of them quickly went out to take a look. Not only had they returned, even Bai He, who had been poisoned, was still fine. His complexion was ruddy, and his breathing was steady. It was impossible to tell that he had been poisoned. There was a moment of astonishment on Xiao Feng's face, but he was indeed an experienced old fox. He quickly adjusted himself and revealed a worried expression. I heard that you had an argument with the He family. I was about to go and check it out when I received the news. I didn't expect you to come back so soon. The He family didn't make things difficult for you, did they? If it weren't for the few spies lurking in the dark, Lin Bai would have almost believed his nonsense. If what he said was true, they would have arrived by now. How could they have just set off? It was obvious that they wanted to sit back and do nothing. Lin Bai saw through it and did not expose it. He only said, "We sparred with He Linsheng. He lost, and then he let us come back." Xiao Feng did not believe it. Although He Linsheng was powerful, he had an average reputation. Not only was he narrow-minded, but he was also extremely vengeful. If he really lost to this group of people, how could he let them go so easily? Third Elder could not help but say, "That's impossible." According to the character of this kid from the He family, he would definitely not let this matter go so easily. Why would he let them go? Lin Bai put on a fake smile when he heard that. It seems that the Third Elder is quite disappointed that we were able to return safely. The Third Elder looked a little embarrassed. "I'm just a little curious. We're more than happy that you guys were able to return safely. Why would we be disappointed?" Both parties exchanged a few more pleasantries. Xiao Feng could not get any useful information from them. Although Lin Bai was young, he spoke and acted like an old fox. He did not reveal a single drop of information. He could only wait for the spies behind him to report back. Only then did he know what the situation was like at that time. "All of you are tired too. Go back and rest early. I don't know what the He family will do later. However, don't worry. I will uphold justice for all of you." Lin Bai seemed to have thought of something, he said apologetically. When He Linsheng attacked, he accidentally injured a few innocent passers-by. At first, he thought that they were our disciples. Later on, he realized that they were unfamiliar with each other. "I don't know where they came from." Hearing this, Xiao Feng and the other elders suddenly had a bad feeling. They lifted the corpse up and saw that it was the last few scouts. Fortunately, they did not carry any items that symbolized their identities. Otherwise, it would be even more awkward. Xiao Feng looked a little reluctant. "You guys go and rest first. We'll take care of these things." Lin Bai cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, family head." Looking at the backs of Lin Bai and the others as they walked away, the elders' expressions were uncertain. I think they did it on purpose. They were the ones who attacked instead of He Linsheng. However, the fifth elder had a different opinion. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. After all, these disciples don't have any markings on them. It's very likely that they thought they were from He Linsheng's side. Xiao Feng was expressionless. No one knew what he was thinking. Then, he asked the scouts who had returned earlier, "Were you discovered when you were following them?" Although these scouts' spiritual power cultivation was not the highest, their movement techniques were the best. It was difficult for even halfway grandmasters to discover their tracks. The two of them spoke confidently. No. At that time, Bai He and He Linsheng were fighting. The two of them fought so hard that it was difficult to separate. Everyone's attention was drawn to them. It's impossible for anyone to discover our existence. Could it be that we were accidentally injured by He Linsheng during the fight? Everyone didn't know the specific situation at that time and kept guessing. Now they had some understanding of Bai He's combat strength. Moreover, he also used a sword, so the possibility of the murderer was very high. However, this Lin Bai was like a mystery. There didn't seem to be anything strange about him, but when they thought about it carefully, there were some suspicious points everywhere, making it hard for people to figure out. No one was clear about his strength. He looked ordinary, but he was able to defeat He Linsheng. How could he be an ordinary person? Perhaps He Linsheng had already used up a lot of his strength during the battle with Bai He. Lin Bai just picked the good time. I think that although his strength is good, it's not particularly outstanding. Otherwise, he would have made his move long ago. We can start with the others and see what the situation was like that day. There were so many people at the scene. It was impossible for everyone to be united as one. Unfortunately, they were disappointed. Those people had been indebted to Lin Bai. Lin Bai expressed that he did not want to be in the limelight. Moreover, Bai had also warned him to keep a low profile when he was outside. Therefore, they unanimously said that Lin Xing had overdrawn his spiritual power and lost to Lin Bai. Their words were concise and comprehensive. However, they were not wrong. Lin Xing had indeed overdrawn his spiritual power. As for the process, they could omit it. Xiaofeng and the others did not know either. They gave an answer but did not seem to give a complete answer. This was not what Xiaofeng wanted. He was so angry that his expression changed slightly. This group of people is really united. I want to see how long they can be united. The Xiao family was not calm. The He family was also in an uproar because of Lin Xing's matter. Lin Xing's father, He Kitchen, was furious when he saw Lin Xing's miserable appearance when he was sent over. Who hurt my son so ruthlessly? Although Lin Xing's father was not the head of the He family, he was the younger brother of the head of the He family. The head of the He family, He Fan, only had one daughter. He was extremely fond of Lin Xing, who was born from his younger brother. He had the intention to let him inherit the family. He was practically grooming Lin Xing as half an heir. Therefore, Lin Xing's status in the family was quite high. He Fan looked at the servants with a dignified expression. What exactly happened? Tell me everything. The servants did not dare to hide anything and gave a rough description. However, they concealed the fact that Lin Xing had attacked first and used hidden weapons behind the scenes. He Kitchen doted on Lin Xing very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have developed such an arrogant and despotic personality. Moreover, Lin Xing looked so miserable. Hearing these words, he was sure that it was Lin Bai and the others who had done this. He Kitchen checked Lin Xing's pulse and found that his spiritual energy had been greatly depleted. It was like a knotted hemp rope that had twisted into a ball. It was impossible to distinguish it clearly, and it had even affected his foundation. In the worst-case scenario, his life would be in danger at the very least. His cultivation level would drop drastically. How could young master's spiritual energy be like this? It's so depleted that he's no different from a person who's at the end of his rope. When Lin Xing had taken the medicine, his spiritual energy had been depleted before the effects of the medicine could be fully exerted. Then, he had continued to take the medicine. This cycle repeated itself, causing great damage to his body. In addition to the subsequent side effects, it had resulted in the current situation. Even if Lin Xing could wake up in the future and have a good rest, his cultivation level would probably fall by quite a bit. How could He Kitchen accept this? He Kitchen used his rich spiritual power to beat those subordinates until they vomited blood. He Kitchen's expression was gloomy as he stared at them coldly. It's all your fault for not taking good care of him. The few of them kowtowed until they were bleeding profusely, hoping that He Kitchen would spare their lives. This has nothing to do with us. It's young master who kept taking drugs in order to defeat those people. There's nothing we can do about it. The spirit energy in He Kitchen's palm flickered as if it was gathering a storm, pressing down on everyone until they could hardly breathe. Then are you all idiots? Don't you know how to stop him? Young master's personality is like that. We've tried to persuade him, but he didn't listen at all. Instead, he blamed us for interfering. The few servants were like frightened quails, afraid that He Kitchen would vent his anger on them. They hurriedly said, "It's all because of those people. If it wasn't for their actions, young master wouldn't have fallen to such a state." One had to admit that this blame was thrown well. The spirit energy in He Kitchen's palm gradually dissipated as expected. The few of them couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. He Kitchen immediately looked for his older brother, He Fan, and said, "Look at how miserable Lin Xing is. That group of people is really too much. You know Lin Xing's character. Although he's usually a little overbearing, he knows when to stop. Now, he has been beaten to such a state by someone who appeared out of nowhere." He Fan had also watched Lin Xing grow up. Seeing him like this, his heart ached, and he could not contain his anger. Outrageous. This is an insult to the He family. Do you know who beat Lin Xing to such a state? The person who followed Lin Xing said that it seemed to be from the Xiao family. He Fan frowned. The Xiao family? Our two families don't seem to have any conflict in the past. Why did they fight today? He Kitchen, who had always wanted to avenge his beloved son, could not think too much. Brother, no matter who it is from the Xiao family, we have to call them out and give us an explanation. Although the He family could not compare to the Xiao family, if they really fought head-on, the Xiao family would be greatly weakened. Therefore, the He family was not worried about this. After all, they only wanted to beat up the culprit. Seeing that He Fan was still hesitating, He Kitchen could not help but urge, "Elder brother, we have already been bullied to the head. Look at what state lynching is in. Don't tell me that we have to swallow our pride." All right, I'll go to the Xiao family right now and ask for an explanation. In a certain pavilion in the backyard, it was like a shrunken Jiangnan water village. There were ponds, rockery, and 9 winding corridors. Everything was available here. He Shueyao sat in the pavilion. She looked like a maid who had walked out of a landscape painting. Her posture was elegant and gentle. She frowned and looked forward. She vaguely heard the noise in front of her. Even from here, she could not help but be curious. What happened? Why is the front yard so noisy? The maid beside her rushed over and whispered into her ear. Her sparkling eyes were a little surprised. Such a thing happened. The maid nodded. I heard it clearly from the side. I even went to check on second young master's condition. His condition is indeed not optimistic. He's seriously injured. Seeing that He Shueyao did not seem surprised at all, the maid could not help but ask, "Miss, why aren't you curious about who hit him?" He Shueyao said nonchalantly, "It doesn't matter who hit him. He lynching is spoiled to the point of being lawless and tyrannical. It's only a matter of time before he ends up like this." Her tone paused, and her voice was almost inaudible. Her gaze said faintly, "Speaking of which, I still have to thank that person for doing what I've always wanted to do." The maidservant beside her did not hear clearly. "Miss, what did you say just now?" He Shueyao smiled but did not say anything. She returned to her previous gentle appearance. "It's nothing. Since father and second uncle are going to look for the Xiao family to get the person, then let's go and take a look too." She wanted to see who exactly was this person. It's said that He Fan only had one daughter. Although he doted on her very much, due to some stubborn traditional ideals, he believed that the family should still be passed on to a man. Therefore, he treated his younger brother's son, He Linsheng, as if he was his own son. This caused He Shueyao to feel a little awkward. Although they were related by blood, they were not on the same level as her younger brother. Moreover, He Linsheng's personality was overbearing and arrogant. Ever since he was young, he had always been on top of He Shueyao. She had always been kind and gentle to others, so she was very popular. Everyone liked her very much. On the surface, they got along well with He Linsheng. As for what happened in private, only the two of them knew. This time, He Linsheng was in trouble. As his elder sister, how could she just sit by and do nothing? No matter what, she had to go and console him. Soon, He Kitchen and He Fan brought their men and came to the door. Seeing that they did not come with good intentions, Xiao Feng guessed that it was something that had happened before. The He family already knew about it. He did not expect that the murderer had not been caught yet, and this kind of trouble came looking for him. Xiao Feng could be said to be extremely disgusted with Lin Bai and the others. He Kitchen did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Master Xiao, you brought a guest here and injured my son. Do you know about this?" Xiao Feng quickly tried to clear his name so that the He family would not blame him for this. "It's not considered a guest. It's just a group of students who came from a remote area for exchange." How could He Kitchen not see that he wanted to clear his name completely? He sneered and said, "No matter what, they're still a part of your Xiao family. If something happens, you have to bear some responsibility, right?" Originally, the He family wanted to take this opportunity to see if they could gain any benefits. After all, the Xiao family was in the wrong first. However, now that they knew the identity of this group of people and saw Xiao Feng's attitude, they knew that he did not care. As expected, Xiao Feng said slowly, "Since that's the case, let's make the person who caused the problem solve it. After all, I just received the news not too long ago. If you put the blame on our Xiao family, it wouldn't be good if news spread." This old fox. He Kitchen could not help but curse in his heart. He said stiffly, "If that's the case, then please, Master Xiao, hand over the person." Xiaofeng was eager to use the He family's hand to get rid of Lin Bai and the others. Perhaps the murderer was among them. This way, he could get rid of all of them and not let others poke his spine. Soon, Xiaofeng asked someone to inform Lin Bai and the others to come over. The third elder could not hide his gloating expression. Someone from the He family has come. How dare you beat He lynching so badly? He Kitchen looked around with an unspeakable dignity. Who exactly beat my son so badly? Before Lin Bai could speak, Bai took the lead and walked out. He said with a neither humble nor humble expression, "It was me. However, I did not beat him badly. He was the one who sneak attacked first." "You're slandering us." He Kitchen shot a glance at He Fan. One had to know that he was most disgusted of harming others behind their backs. He was afraid that Bai He would say something unpleasant again. Boundless spiritual energy pressed over like the rolling waves of the ocean and the howling of the wind. He actually had the strength of a halfway grandmaster. My son would never do such a thing. Although Bai He had already detoxified, his chi had not been recuperated yet. His body was a little weak. So how could he withstand the spiritual pressure of He Kitchen? His face instantly turned pale, and blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. Senior brother Bai. However, the wind was so strong that they could not even get close to him. The disciples next to him immediately became nervous. "I want you to pay with your life for my son." No one had expected He Kitchen to be so unreasonable. He suddenly made a move on the spot. Everyone finally knew where He Linsheng's temper came from. He Kitchen circulated his spiritual power. The sword chi was so strong that one could still vaguely hear the sound of a sharp weapon cutting through the air. It was as if the air had been split into two halves. However, he was stopped by someone. The force came and collided in the air. The spiritual power actually dissipated. Seeing that his move was so easily dissolved, He Kitchen was flustered and exasperated. "Who is it?" Lin Bai walked out of the team with a teasing smile. Those who don't know would think that you are anxious to silence someone so that he don't say anything bad to let others hear. Suddenly, someone hit the nail on the head. He Kitchen's expression changed slightly, but he quickly recovered and said with an unsightly expression, "Who are you?" The third elder couldn't wait to speak, as if he had already seen Lin Bai's bad luck. When He Lynching fought with the two of them, he was the second person. He Kitchen glared at Lin Bai. "Looks like you're the culprit, causing my son to still be unconscious." Lin Bai was not afraid at all. "Your son's condition has nothing to do with us. So many pairs of eyes have seen it. He kept taking pills, and in the end, when his spiritual power was exhausted, it backfired. I didn't touch him. Although you, Lin Bai, didn't make a move, your pet beast did." However, He Kitchen was too embarrassed to say this out loud. Wouldn't that be inadvertently admitting that He Lin Hung couldn't even defeat a pet beast, and had even reached the point of taking drugs? The most tragic thing was that he was still unable to defeat him even after taking drugs and ended up like that. "You must have done something in the dark. Otherwise, how could my son be like this? Did you secretly poison him?" In response to He Kitchen's accusation, Lin Bai sneered and said, "In terms of poison, who can compare to your son? This is his masterpiece." Lin Bai threw out the dart and stabbed it directly into the ground. He Kitchen suddenly retreated and looked down. It was indeed a hidden weapon that He Lynching often used, but he did not admit it. "You're framing him. Anyway, my son Lynching is laying unconscious on the bed. No matter what, it's all because of your mouth." Lin Bai said disdainfully, "No wonder there's the saying like father like son." He Kitchen's expression became even darker. "What do you mean by that?" "Of course it means what it says. You didn't discipline your son properly and let him stir up trouble. Not only was he ruthless, he even attacked people behind their back. In the end, he took drugs and suffered a backlash. However, you still choose to blame others." Lin Bai didn't say a word. He Kitchen's expression became even uglier, and He Fan was almost the same. "Enough!" He Kitchen roared. "Where did you come from, you little punk? You're talking nonsense here. If I don't kill you today, it'll be hard for me to let go of the hatred in my heart." Seeing that the smell of gunpowder was getting stronger, Xiaofeng finally stood up and said hypocritically, "I think we should have a peaceful talk first." Veins popped out on He Kitchen's forehead. "What's there to talk about? Paying a life with a life. It's only right and proper. But isn't your son still alive? When the dean heard Lin Bai's words, he could not help but hold his forehead. No matter how he heard it, it sounded as if he was cursing his son to die early. He lowered his voice and said, "Don't say too much." He could tell that the Xiao family did not want to get involved in this mess. He reckoned that the He family also had a certain level of strength, which was why the Xiao family did not want to offend them. So what if He lynching made the first move? The truth that he was laying unconscious on the bed. Fellow Taoist, they are young and impetuous, so it is inevitable that they will be a little impulsive. However, it is true that they did not injure He lynching. The most important reason is that he overdosed on the medicinal pills and resulted in a backlash. Seeing that they kept bringing up the medicinal pills, He Kitchen became even angrier. "Who are you?" "I'm their teacher." He Kitchen sized up the dean from head to toe, and his eyes revealed a hint of contempt. "With this kind of strength, you're not even qualified to speak in front of me." The dean's expression did not change. No matter how strong a person is, they still have to be reasonable. So many of us can clearly see that these two children really did not harm He lynching. He Chiching did not want to waste any more time with them. You're all together. Naturally, you're colluding to distort the truth, trying to confuse the public. And even if there's a reason behind the backlash from the pills, these two are also the main culprits. He stared fiercely at Lin Bai. "If it wasn't for him, how could my son have swallowed so many pills?" Lin Bai had seen unreasonable people before, but he had never seen such unreasonable people. Lin Bai almost laughed out of anger at He Chiching. The one who started the challenge was He lynching. The one who wasn't strong enough and got defeated was also He lynching. In the end, he still wanted us to take the blame. He Chiching flew into a rage. His 5 fingers turned into claws as he reached out to grab Lin Bai. He shifted his body and dodged He Chiching's attack. What is this logic? You can't beat me in an argument, so you want to beat me into a confession? Although we don't have the background of your He family and use our power to oppress others, there is still reason left in this world. You always say that I injured He lynching and that we are making up lies. Why don't you ask an alchemist to come and see if his internal injuries were caused by excessive consumption of medicinal pills? It will be obvious at a glance whether it is true or false. He Chiching's expression changed slightly. Previously, he had asked a doctor to come and see him. He only said that He lynching's spiritual power had dried up and did not give a detailed reason. Now, Lin Bai and the others were being so serious. They would be exposed if they really invited an alchemist. Exposing that He lynching had indeed swallowed an excessive amount of medicinal pills was also the main culprit for him vomiting blood and fainting. He looked at He Fan with some unease. Seeing that He Fan's expression was uncertain, he hurriedly said, "Don't quibble here. You said that you wanted us to go and invite a physician. I think you guys should have taken this opportunity to escape." Seeing He Chiching's expression, Lin Bai knew that he was extremely guilty. At that time, he definitely did not invite an alchemist. He just wanted to push all the blame onto them. "If you're afraid that we'll escape, I'll go with you. You don't have anything to worry about now, do you?" Having said that, He Chiching was instantly speechless. He Fan, who had been silent the entire time, frowned at the side. He had originally thought that the ones who had injured He lynching were a few kids from the countryside. It was purely a fluke that they had been able to win, or they had relied on some disgraceful method. But now that he looked at it, the truth was not as he had thought. Their temperament was extraordinary. Those who did not know would have thought that they were core disciples from some sect. Their attitude was neither humble nor arrogant, and they spoke with reason and evidence, making it impossible for anyone to refute them. Although this group of people had come from a small place and were not very strong, the capital had a clear rule that innocent people could not be killed indiscriminately. If they really did not care about the consequences of their actions, it was likely that they would incur immeasurable consequences. Seeing that the atmosphere was anxious, a gentle female voice suddenly sounded. "Since they said that lynching had consumed too many medicinal pills, why don't we invite an alchemist over?" Lin Bai looked towards the direction of the voice. It was a gentle and delicate-looking woman. Her eyebrows were not well defined, and her lips were not dyed red. Her pair of autumn water eyes flickered with a gentle light. Her appearance, which did not have any offensive power, was extremely easy to make people feel at ease and wary. Seeing him look over, He Shueyao nodded her head. When He Qiqing heard this, he was a little anxious. Shueyao, how can you listen to slander and speak up for this group of people? Don't fall for their tricks. It's just a stall for time. He Shueyao said slowly, Second uncle, don't be anxious. Although I'm also very concerned about Lin Qing's accident, the most important thing is to treat him first, right? Only by finding out the source of the illness can we treat the illness properly. Her words completely blocked He Qiqing's path of retreat. Lin Bai looked at He Shueyao without batting an eyelid. He could not figure out what she was up to. He Fan, who was initially hesitant, was even more shaken when he heard her words. Father, I don't think they can escape either. Just like what he said just now, at worst, we can just take him away. If something really happens to Lin Qing, it won't be too late for us to deal with him then. He Qiqing knew very well that delay could lead to change, but He Shueyao just had to stand up and speak at this time. He Fan thought for a moment, then nodded and said, Okay, we'll do as you said. You'll come with us. The others will stay in the Xiao family and are not allowed to leave. Master Xiao, you probably won't help them, right? What he meant was that he was worried that Xiao Feng would secretly let them go. Xiao Feng put on a fake smile and said, The Xiao family will not act like that. Moreover, I won't bend the law for personal gain. I'll only stand on the side of fairness and justice. Everyone was a little worried as they watched Lin Bai and the He family leave. Senior brother Bai, will anything happen to senior brother Lin? Bai he shook his head. For some reason, he had an inexplicable confidence in Lin Bai. I believe in him. With his strength, he'll definitely be able to return safely. He Fan and the others brought Lin Bai back to the He family home. At the same time, they also invited an alchemist. At this moment, He Lin Qing was laying on the bed. Although there were no obvious injuries on his body, his complexion was extremely pale. His body was sweating profusely, and there were only weak undulations on his chest. He looked extremely unwell. Lin Bai sighed and said, If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? These words were a little harsh to He Qiqing's ears, especially when He Lin Qing was still unconscious. His expression was gloomy as he said, Don't think that I really don't dare to kill you. Lin Bai shrugged and made a gesture to keep quiet as he stood at the side. This action made He Qiqing even more flustered. He was about to speak when He Fan frowned and said, All right, Lin Qing is already like this. Everyone stop. He spoke very calmly. The gaze he used to look at Lin Bai was expressionless, and the coldness in his voice only increased. If anything happens to Lin Qing, it won't be too late to settle the score then. The He family had invited a Tier 5 alchemist, Chen Yan, who was quite famous in the capital. He reached into He Lin Qing's spirit vein and furrowed his brows. Alchemist Chen, how is he? Chen Yan shook his head and said in a reproachful tone, What's wrong with you? How could you let him take so many recovery pills? It's fine if that's the case, but he swallowed them again before the effects of the medicine could be brought into play. This is like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It caused serious damage to the meridians in his body. It could be seen that He Lin Qing's condition was extremely serious, like the leaky bucket. No wonder He Qiqing and He Fan took turns to channel their spirit qi to treat him, but his injuries showed no signs of healing. So, most of these injuries are caused by overconsumption of pills, resulting in damage to the spiritual veins? Chen Yin nodded and agreed. You can say that the external injuries that young master suffered are just minor matters. The main reason is that his spiritual veins have been damaged, and his dantian and other places have also been affected. He Qiqing and He Fan's expressions instantly turned as black as charcoal. Then, is there any way to repair these damaged spirit veins? Qin Yin frowned and did not say anything. Seeing this, both of their hearts were in their throats. After a long while, he said, I'm afraid it's very difficult. With his damaged meridians, he needs at least a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill to be able to repair them. I'm also unable to do it. The spirit replenishing pill could not only nourish the body, but it could also repair damaged spirit veins. Moreover, the medicinal effect was mild and did not have any side effects. Even if an ordinary person took it, it could prolong their life and strengthen their body. Therefore, it was extremely rare. However, This kind of medicinal pill did not have any effect on cultivators with intact spirit meridians, and very few people used it. After all, its effect was somewhat useless, and it was not as good as the spirit recovery pill that was a few grades lower than it. Therefore, it was not commonly seen on the market. Currently, the highest grade 1 in circulation in the capital city was only 5th grade. He frowned and could not help but ask, even if the spirit meridians were damaged, it would not be so severe. Why would it need a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill to repair it? Chun Yan's gaze suddenly became a little subtle. The surge of qi and blood caused the meridians to be blocked, and it went against the flow. That's why it made things worse. To put it in layman terms, he was angered to the point of losing his mind. It was rare for him to be angered to such an extent. No wonder Chun Yan had such an expression. Even the He family members didn't know what to say when they heard it. The main culprit, Lin Bai, heard it clearly from the side and cursed in his heart. He did not expect He lynching to be so narrow-minded that he had angered him to this extent. He Kitchen immediately said excitedly, "You must have said something to my son. That's why he's like this." Lin Bai could not help but roll his eyes. "So, whatever problems your son has, it's all someone else's fault. Earlier, you said that I had done something, and now you're saying that I had said something. What crimes do you want to pin on me next?" "You." He Kitchen wanted to continue arguing with him, but he was stopped by He Fan to avoid being laughed at by others. Most importantly, He Lynching's situation was not optimistic. "Second brother, calm down. Now is not the time to dwell on this problem. Alchemy Master Chun, does only grade 7 spirit replenishing pills work? Would grade 6 do the job?" If He Fan remembered correctly, there was still a grade 6 spirit replenishing pill at the auction in the capital. Although the price was a little high, it was still worth it for He Lynching. Unexpectedly, Chun Yin shook his head. "It has to be grade 7. If it's only grade 6, the effect will be greatly reduced. Even if young master's spirit vein is replenished, his cultivation level will also drop drastically." He Kitchen and He Fan's expressions were extremely ugly. The day of the competition of the various academies is soon. With Lynching's current state, how can he obtain a good ranking in the competition? His future prospects will be ruined. Hearing the words, academy competition, Lin Bai secretly kept an eye out. For the He family to take it so seriously, it must be an important competition. Just as he was thinking, a strong force came. If not for Lin Bai's quick dodging, he would have already been beheaded. The one who attacked was He Kitchen. "You have caused my son so much misery. Today, I will make you pay with your life." Lin Bai spread his hands and said helplessly, "But the fate of your son has nothing to do with me. But you are also the main culprit." He Chiching flew into a rage out of humiliation. Although he knew in his heart that such a reason was somewhat untenable, in his opinion, Lin Bai had no power and was from a small city. Even if he died, no one would say anything. Even He Fan, who was beside him, did not speak. It was clear that he had tacitly agreed with his actions. Even if Lin Bai had the ability to reach the heavens, it would still be difficult for him to escape from the encirclement of so many people from the He family. However, he was not worried in the slightest because, what if I can refine a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill? Everyone was stunned for a moment when they heard this. Only He Shuiyao's eyes flashed as she looked at Lin Bai without batting an eyelid. He Chiching looked as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. His eyes revealed a disdainful expression. "Just you? You think you can refine a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill? Why don't you look at who you are?" Even Chun Yin felt the same. He sized up Lin Bai from head to toe and shook his head. "It's a good thing for young people to be confident. However, you shouldn't boast like this. Why were high-grade alchemists so rare? It was because not only it required extremely high talent to become, but they also needed the support of a large amount of financial resources." No matter how he looked at it, Lin Bai had nothing to do with these two things. Ordinary medicinal pills were fine, and ordinary herbs were not worth much. However, if they were exchanged for high-grade medicinal pills, not only would some medicinal herbs be worth thousands of gold coins, they would even be priceless. It was very difficult to obtain them. The process of refining pills was not easy either. The slightest carelessness would cause the furnace to explode. All the effort put into it would be wasted. Chen Yin was only a fifth-grade alchemist when he was around 40 years old. Although he was not particularly powerful, he could still be considered to have made some achievements. To be able to refine a seventh-grade spirit-replenishing pill, one must be at least a sixth-grade alchemist, and it still might not succeed. Do you think you can refine it? Faced with everyone's doubts, Lin Bai's expression was calm. He said confidently, "Yes, I can refine it." He Qiqing only thought that he was trying to stall for time. That was why he spoke in this manner. Do you think that we will believe this kind of nonsense that is riddled with loopholes? Even if an immortal came, he wouldn't be able to save you. He was about to make a move, but he was stopped by someone. He turned his head and saw that it was actually He Fan. He immediately said in disbelief, "Big brother, why did you stop me? I want to kill this brat to avenge Lin Sheng." He Fan glanced at Lin Bai. Even at the critical moment of life and death, his expression did not change. The calmness on his body carried an inexplicable sense of trust, which made people unable to help but believe what he had just said. Even if you kill him, you won't be able to repair Lin Sheng's damaged spirit vein. Right now, all the grade 7 alchemists in the city have been secretly summoned, and their whereabouts are unknown. We have no other choice at this moment. The meaning of his words was to let Lin Bai try. He Qiqing was in disbelief. "Big brother, are you confused? You actually believe the nonsense of this stinky brat? Who knows what kind of intentions he has, and whether he will secretly do something?" What he said was not without reason. After all, Lin Sheng and Lin Bai had old grudges. However, there were only two paths in front of them now. Even if Lin Sheng's spirit vein could be repaired, his cultivation level would drop drastically and he would miss the competition. His future would be ruined. If they let Lin Bai try, and he could really repair it, then everything would be different. He Fan said with an ugly expression, "Then what choice do you want me to make? Do you want me to watch Lin Sheng face the cruel reality after he wakes up?" Chun Yin added from the side, "The sixth-grade spirit-replenishing pill can repair the spirit vein, but in the future, the spirit vein will be extremely weak and needs to be nurtured properly. We must not allow any further damage. Otherwise, I'm afraid that his entire cultivation path would be ruined." He spoke of the ugly side first, in case any accidents happened in the future and the He family members came looking for trouble. Hearing these words, the brothers' expressions became even more unsightly. He Qiqing gritted his teeth and said, "If it really can't be done, I'll send people to inquire about the whereabouts of those seventh-grade alchemists right now." He Fan sighed. "You know the City Lord's methods. Since he has secretly gathered them together, how could we possibly know? It's just a futile effort." The two of them didn't notice that Chen Yin wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, they thought about it and still didn't say anything. Lin Bai saw all of this, and a little doubt surfaced in his heart. Since things have come to this, let him try. Although He Qiqing was extremely unwilling, there was nothing he could do. He glared fiercely at Lin Bai. "If you, kid, dare to do anything in the dark and let anything happen to Lin Sheng, I'll definitely bury you with him. Don't worry, I'm not a fool. If anything happens to him, I won't be able to escape either. Smart people know what to do." Hearing this, He Fan and He Qiqing's expressions finally became much better. Although Chen Yin felt that the two brothers were playing a child's game, after all, how old was Lin Bai? How could he possibly refine a seventh-grade spirit-replenishing pill? However, he couldn't say anything. After all, this was the He family's own choice. He could also understand their feelings. As long as there was a glimmer of hope in front of them, no matter how unreliable it was, they were willing to give it a try. They stayed behind with the mentality of watching the show, intending to see how Lin Bai would end up. Under everyone's gaze, Lin Bai formed a seal with his hands. Seeing that he was extremely familiar with the technique, Chun Yin revealed a rather appreciative expression. A flash of inspiration appeared, and a pitch-black, dilapidated-looking small cauldron appeared in their field of vision. As expected, when everyone saw Lin Bai's small tattered cauldron, they revealed an extremely disdainful expression. He Qiqing wanted to interrupt Lin Bai on the spot. He could not help but mock. What kind of good medicinal pill can this small broken cauldron refine? Seeing how unreliable Lin Bai was, He Fan's heart wavered. He wanted to stop the pill refinement, but he saw Lin Bai say, Refining medicinal pills doesn't depend on whether the furnace is good or bad. The person who refines the pills is me, not this cauldron. Why do you all care so much? One sentence made them speechless. After thinking carefully, it was indeed true. Just as they were speaking, Lin Bai had already thrown in a few precious herbs to refine the spirit-replenishing pill. He Chi-Ching and He Fan's faces were filled with heartache as they watched. One had to know that these herbs were obtained by spending a large amount of money and means. If the pill refinement failed, all of these would turn into nothingness. They began to regret their decision back then. However, things had already come to this point. The refinement had already begun. If they stopped now, it would feel as if they were giving it away for free. It would be better to let Lin Bai continue refining. After all, this concerned He Linqing's future. He Fan even made 2 preparations and ordered the people around him to quickly bid for the grade 6 spirit replenishing pill. In case Lin Bai didn't succeed, he could only use this grade 6 spirit replenishing pill to remedy the situation. He Shueyao watched her father busy himself. Those who didn't know would think that He Linqing was his biological son. She expressionlessly looked at the unconscious person on the bed, and then her expression returned to one of worry. Father, don't worry. Linqing is a lucky man. He will definitely survive this. Sigh. If Linqing's cultivation falls and can't recover his spirit vein, the He family won't know what to do with their huge family business in the future. He Shueyao softly comforted him. Don't you still have a daughter? He Fan shook his head and revealed a bitter smile. What can a daughter like you achieve? Moreover, you will get married sooner or later. When she heard this, He Shueyao's expression froze. She lowered her head deeply. No one could see her expression clearly. When she raised her head again, her gentle expression did not change. However, a ray of spiritual light quietly flashed across her palm. At this moment, Lin Bai added the medicinal ingredients into the cauldron one by one. A flame appeared in his palm. Its surface was fiery red, but its interior was flickering with golden light. However, it did not seem to have any temperature. The 9-young true flame was extremely rare. Naturally, no one had seen it before. From what they knew, the higher the grade of the flame, the higher the temperature, and the more extraordinary its aura was. It wasn't like Lin Bai's. Chen Yin studied it for a moment, but he couldn't tell what type of flame the flame in his palm was. However, from the outside, it seemed to have some extraordinary qualities. He Fan was a little uneasy when he saw this. He asked, Alchemist Chen, do you think he can successfully refine it? Chun Yin said tactfully, Family head He, even I'm not confident in this matter. Do you think this young man can succeed? It's such a pity for these medicinal herbs. What he meant was that Lin Bai would definitely fail. When He Chi-Ching heard this, he couldn't help but complain, Big brother, back then, I said that this kid was unreliable, but in the end, you insisted on letting him try. Now, not only is it a waste of time, but it's also a waste of so many precious medicinal herbs. He Fan's expression was not very good. He looked at Lin Bai with a bleak gaze. He saw that he had already put all the medicinal herbs into the small cauldron. As the flames circulated, the small black cauldron was wrapped inside. The originally pitch-black exterior had a few more golden-red rays of light, making it seem a little unusual. Golden veins interweaved together, forming patterns that covered the entire chessboard. They enveloped the surroundings of the small cauldron and nourished the medicinal herbs inside. Specks of green were scattered all over it. They were filled with vigorous vitality, just like a small forest. The flames spread and interweaved with the green. The forest gradually began to shrink. The herbs seemed to have received some unknown power and slowly merged together. The shape of the pill could be vaguely seen, but it was not pure. There were some impurities on it. Lin Bai increased the intensity of the flame. As the last bit of green dispersed, it was replaced by a transparent light. It was as if all the herbs had been purified. All the impurities had been extracted, leaving behind the essence. Everyone faintly smelled a medicinal fragrance. Chen Yan's expression changed slightly, as if he couldn't believe it. If the refinement isn't successful, the smell shouldn't be like this. Could it be that he succeeded? Hearing this, He Chi-Ching and He Fan were overjoyed. When all hope seemed lost, this happened. In that case, he really can refine a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill. Chun Yin nodded. The brothers were only happy for a second before they saw him shake his head. They didn't understand what he meant. From the current situation, he might be able to refine a grade 7 spirit replenishing pill. However, there are many factors that affect the pill refinement. Until the moment the cauldron is opened, it is still unknown what grade the pill will be. He Shuiyao's gentle voice sounded. What Alchemist Chen means is that if it is affected, the quality of the pill will drop. Naturally, that is the case. It is also possible that the talent of the alchemist isn't good enough, resulting in a lack of spiritual energy supply. When the pill is about to be formed, the quality of the pill will drop as well. What he meant was that Lin Bai was able to refine the pill, but whether he would succeed in the end was still unknown. As they talked, the strange medicinal fragrance became stronger and stronger, refreshing people's minds. Smelling it made people's spirits rise, and everyone's attitude, which was originally casual, became extremely cautious. Especially Chun Yan's eyes, which were wide open and burning. Those who didn't know would think that he had discovered some treasure. Along with the strange medicinal fragrance, a layer of gray fog appeared on the small broken furnace. Then, it slowly turned white, and the milk-like color gradually faded. Chen Yin knew that this was a sign that the pill was about to be formed. When the fog became transparent, it meant that the pill was formed. He didn't even dare to blink his eyes, afraid that he would miss a moment. Seeing him like this, He Qiqing, He Fan, and He Qiqing also became a little nervous. Just as Lin Bai was fully focused on refining the pill, a cold light rushed over from behind him. Everyone's attention was attracted to it, so they did not notice it at all. Lin Bai frowned. The cold light circled around the small broken furnace and was about to enter it. One had to know that it was about to form a core. If a bit of impurities were to seep in, it would affect the quality of the final core formation. Unfortunately, the 9 young true flames suddenly rose and swallowed it in an instant. It did not even stir up a wave. All the changes happened in the blink of an eye. It was as if nothing had happened. The medicinal fragrance became stronger, and the lid of the cauldron also rose spontaneously. Chen Yin could not help but shout, "It's time to condense the pill. Success or failure depends on this one move." Everyone's heart was in their throats. Could Lin Bai succeed? A huge green wave surged over. With Lin Bai as the center, the surroundings became an ocean of green. The light was so piercing that everyone could hardly open their eyes. No one noticed that Lin Bai's hand moved slightly, as if something had fallen into the cauldron. When the light dimmed, the refreshing medicinal fragrance disappeared. The small cauldron quietly hovered in the air and returned to its previous dull appearance. There was no special phenomenon. For a moment, He Fan and the others were confused. Did he fail, or did he succeed? They subconsciously looked at Chen Yin, who also shook his head to indicate that he didn't know. Logically speaking, after successfully forming a core, the higher the grade of the medicinal pill, the higher the phenomenon would be. However, Lin Bai started high and ended low. Just a moment ago, the medicinal fragrance was still incessantly assaulting their noses, but now there was no movement. It can't be that he failed, right? It's possible that the medicinal fragrance from before was also created by this kid to intentionally scare us. He Fan revealed a disappointed expression. He thought that Lin Bai had failed, and He Shuiyao let out an indiscernible sigh of relief. However, they only saw Lin Bai remove the lid of the cauldron, and 3 round and smooth pills appeared in everyone's sight. Each pill was extremely plump and did not have any impurities. Golden pill patterns circled around, and there were no less than 7 layers. Chun Yin widened his eyes and quickly rushed forward. He held the 3 pills in his hand and examined them carefully. He was so shocked that he almost could not speak. This is a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill. You really succeeded in refining it. He Qiqing and He Fan instantly became extremely excited and surrounded Chen Yin. Chen Yin looked at the pills in his hand and carefully sniffed them. The 7th grade spirit replenishing pill was real. His gaze fell on Lin Bai, and there was still some shock and disbelief in his eyes. Just give one to your young master to swallow. He'll recover after resting for a few days. He Qiqing was still a little hesitant. There shouldn't be any problems with it, right, Alchemist Chin? Chun Yan's face turned cold. You're questioning my judgment. There's nothing wrong with the grade 7 spirit replenishing pill. Seeing that he was angry, He Qiqing didn't doubt him and hurriedly fed He Linqing. He Linqing's unsightly expression recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, he extended his spiritual sense. Sure enough, there was an extremely gentle power that was moving through He Linqing's meridians. It was like a line connecting the originally broken meridians. It was really too magical. Seeing how excited the two of them were, Lin Bai was deep in thought. Suddenly, he remembered the spiritual power that came when the pill was about to form. Who would do that? He Qiqing and He Fan were eager to save He Linqing, so they would never do such a thing. Chen Yin had no enmity with the He family, nor did he have any interactions with him, so he did not have this motive. As for He Xueyao, Lin Bai's gaze fell on He Xueyao. She just happened to raise her head, and their gazes met in mid-air. He Xueyao did not seem to expect Lin Bai to look over, so she immediately averted her gaze. Lin Bai didn't know if it was his imagination, but he felt that there was some coldness in her gaze. It was strange. Previously, He Xueyao had indirectly spoken up for Lin Bai and had even expressed her goodwill towards him. Now, it was as if she had changed into a different person, and she was somewhat cold. The person behind the scenes probably did not want him to cultivate into a medicinal pill. If they wanted his life, the He family could have directly made a move. There was no need to go through so much trouble and even use He Linqing as a bet. It was likely that the person was coming for He Linqing. He looked at He Xueyao again. At this moment, she had already lowered her head. The expression on her face could not be seen clearly. In any case, he was going to leave soon. The person behind the scenes had nothing to do with him. Lin Bai could not be bothered to meddle in other people's business. Moreover, he and He Linqing were not on good terms. He had no choice but to refine the pill to save the person. The rest was up to the He family. I've already refined the pill. If there's nothing else, I can leave now. Lin Bai walked towards the door, but a strong spiritual energy assaulted him from behind, accompanied by He Qiqing's cold voice. Did I say you could leave? Lin Bai raised his eyebrows and turned around. Are you trying to burn the bridge after crossing it? Or are you trying to kill the donkey after cutting the mill? He Qiqing's expression was dark. Linqing hasn't woken up yet. Who knows if there will be any side effects from this pill? We have to wait until he wakes up first. Okay. Lin Bai sat down indifferently. As the saying goes, when the army comes, the general will block it. When the water comes, the earth will cover it. He wanted to see what tricks He Qiqing would play later. He Xueyao brought a cup of tea from the side and placed it beside Lin Bai. She said softly, "Don't blame second uncle. He's too worried about Linqing's situation." Lin Bai raised his head and glanced at her. To be honest, as the eldest daughter of the He family, He Xueyao did everything flawlessly, no matter how she treated others or how she handled things. If there was one word to describe it, it was perfect. Thank you. Time passed by minute, and the effect of the 7th grade spirit replenishing pill was very fast. He Linqing, who was laying on the bed, opened his eyes. Father, uncle, Linqing, you've finally woken up. Is there anything uncomfortable in your body? He Linqing, who was laying on the bed, did not notice Lin Bai on the chair. He shook his head and said, "Other than feeling weak all over, the rest is fine." He Fan once again probed his spiritual sense. As expected, the previously damaged and messy meridians were all recovering in an orderly manner. Now, more than half of the damage had recovered. He Qiqing turned his head to look at Chen Yin. He nodded and said, "These are the sequelae. After all, he took too many pills. After a few days of good rest, he will completely recover." As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a familiar male voice. "All right, you guys heard it too. He said that everything is fine. Then I can leave now, right?" Even He Linqing would not forget this voice. He sat up abruptly. Lin Bai, who was sitting on the chair, came into sight. He even waved at him to greet him. "We meet again." He Linqing gritted his teeth. In an instant, his face was as malevolent as an evil ghost. "Why is he here?" "Uncle, it's him. Hurry up and help me kill him." Seeing that He Linqing was agitated and wished that he could eat Lin Bai's flesh and drink Lin Bai's blood, He Xueyao said with an unclear meaning, It was he who refined the 7th-grade spirit-replenishing pill that allowed you to wake up. Speaking of which, you should thank him instead. Lin thought that he was hearing things, so he couldn't help but ask, what? Could it be that you've forgotten that you've swallowed too many pills and haven't fully utilized the medicinal effects? Your spiritual energy has been completely depleted, and your meridians have been severely damaged. Lin immediately revealed an incomparably panicked expression. Only then did he realize that his spiritual meridians had indeed been severely damaged. But now that they were slowly recovering, he instantly heaved a sigh of relief. It was a pity that he would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. He was destined not to be a grateful person. So what? All of this is what he owes me. If it wasn't for this brat, how would I have fallen to such a state? Lin stared at Lin Bai with a gloomy expression and said to He-Chi-Ching, Father, I want to make him pay with blood to eliminate the hatred in my heart. He-Chi-Ching agreed without the slightest hesitation. All right. Lin Bai's eyes were full of mockery. He knew that this father and son pair were the ones who would burn the bridge after crossing the river. He-Fan's expression was dark and unpredictable. He did not agree or reject. Instead, He-Shuiyao opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. In the end, she did not open her mouth. In any case, it's such a big family. I didn't expect that they would go back on their words. If this gets out, I'm afraid that many people will laugh at them. In the face of Lin Bai's ridicule, Lin obviously didn't take it seriously and revealed a cold smile. As long as you die, no one will know about this. Who will know? We can completely announce to the public that you committed suicide because of guilt. Who will pursue it? Clap, clap, clap. Lin Bai couldn't help but clap. It seems that you've even thought of a reason for me. If I had known that you were so ungrateful, I wouldn't have refined the grade 7 spirit replenishing pill and made you a cripple. Hearing the word cripple, Lin's expression instantly turned extremely ugly. Who did you say was a cripple? If you have the guts, say it again. He-Chi-Ching's heart instantly felt a little uncomfortable. Moreover, he was certain that Lin Bai was the culprit. If it wasn't for him, all of this wouldn't have happened. These are all your unreasonable arguments. What you've done now is only to atone for the mistakes you've committed. Even if you die, it's deserved of your sins. Lin Bai was almost angered by the father and son's ability to twist the narrative. His eyes were full of ridicule. If I remember correctly, you started the conflict first. You were the one who wanted to take drugs. In the end, you were the one who lost and ended up like this. Everything was your own fault. Now, you are blaming others. You really know how to shift the blame. Lin Bai sighed and said sincerely, This is the first time I've seen such a shameless person in the world. If one ignored the sarcasm in his eyes, those who did not know would think that Lin Bai was complimenting him. Even though Lin and his father were thick-skinned, their faces were green and white at the same time, changing colors like a palette. You're still so arrogant after falling into my hands. I think you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? You have a sharp tongue. I think you'd better be quiet forever. Just as He-Chi-Ching was about to attack, Lin Bai was also ready for a big battle. He summoned Little Black, Little Red, and Little Green at any time. He had long thought of a way out. Lin and his father were not good people, and He-Fan naturally stood on their side. It was impossible for him not to have a backup plan. It just so happened that Little Black and Little Green could join hands to cast an illusion spell and trap the He family members inside. Little Red would launch an attack to cover his retreat. Even if it was only for a few seconds, it was enough for him to escape. Seeing that the smell of gunpowder in the air was getting stronger, a voice suddenly sounded, Hold on! Everyone looked towards the voice. It was Chun Yin. No one had expected him to suddenly speak. He-Fan asked doubtfully, May I know what Pill Master Chun has to say? Chen Yin walked towards Lin Bai and stood in front of him. You can't kill this person. It wasn't just the He family members. Even Lin Bai was a little stunned. Lin was just about to open his mouth and say, Who do you think you are? If you say you can't kill him, then you can't kill him. What right do you have to speak? Shut up. He-Chi-Ching and He-Fan said almost at the same time, Lin, don't be impudent. This is Alchemist Chun. Chen Yan's status as a grade 5 alchemist was obviously not low. Moreover, he came from the Alchemist Association. This faction was extremely powerful. Their branches were almost all over the continent. As long as it wasn't a particularly remote small city, one could see it. It could be said that it was widely distributed. There were countless of them. The Alchemist Association located in the capital was only one of them. It could be seen that their strength was strong. Just like that, an ordinary grade 3 or grade 4 alchemist in the outside world was enough to be respected by people. If it was in Lin Bai's small city, it was even more of an existence at the peak. However, in the Alchemist Association, it was at most at the entry level. People like Chen Yan were only above average. The Alchemist Association headquarters had many 6th or 7th grade alchemists who were extremely rare outside. There were even top-grade alchemists in charge. However, they rarely appeared in front of the world. It was enough to show how terrifying the strength behind them was. It was not something the He family could afford to provoke. It was no wonder He Qiqing and He Fan were so respectful to him. Alchemist Chen, do you know him? Chun Yin shook his head. I don't. I only met this little brother today. Hearing this, the He family members were even more confused. Why would Chun Yin suddenly say something like this? He Qiqing gritted his teeth and spoke. Alchemist Chen, you don't know how detestable this kid is. Not only did he almost cripple my son's meridians, but he also argued with me many times later on. You've seen it for yourself. If I don't kill him, it'll be hard for me to get rid of the hatred in my heart. Chun Yin didn't agree. Although I wasn't involved in the cause of the incident, I can tell from your words that even if this young man is in the wrong, he doesn't deserve to die. Furthermore, he also made some remedial measures later on. Before he could finish his sentence, Lin Bai interrupted him. No matter what, we can't let this kid walk out of the He family's door alive today. Chun Yin didn't even give him a glance. His gaze fell directly on He Fan and said meaningfully, didn't you agree before? If he can refine the medicinal pill, then we'll agree to let this little brother go. How can a person go back on his word? Don't you agree, patriarchy? He Fan understood the meaning in his words. His eyes darkened slightly. He pondered for a moment and said, may I ask Alchemist Chun what you like about this kid that he wants to protect him so much? Naturally, I cherish his talent. To be able to refine a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill at such a young age, it shows that his fortune is extraordinary. If he is slightly nurtured, his future will be limitless. It is not impossible for him to become an extreme grade alchemist. Speaking up to this point, Chen Yan's eyes were burning as if he had discovered a treasure. Seeing that his attitude was firm, He Fan could not force him to stay. Killing Lin Bai might not have caused anyone to say anything, but Chun Yin was a grade 5 alchemist. If anything happened, the He family would bear the main responsibility. Moreover, he was a member of the Alchemist Association, so it would be even harder to deal with him. Since that's the case, on account of Alchemist Chen's face, I'll let you live. I hope you'll do your best. He Fan looked deeply at Lin Bai. It was clear that Lin Bai was still a little unhappy. But uncle, this kid clearly... He wanted to say something else, but He Fan's indifferent gaze swept over. He Qiqing lowered his voice and said, Lin Bai, don't say too much. Although He Fan usually doted on Lin Bai, when it came to matters related to the He family, it was non-negotiable. Seeing that he had made up his mind, no one could say anything else. Let them go. Following He Fan's order, Lin Bai followed behind Chun Yin and walked out of the He family's door safely. Where do you live? Let me send you off. Lin Bai knew what Chun Yin meant. He was worried that the He family would attack him on the way, but he wasn't worried. With on his own strength, even if he couldn't beat them, he could still run away. Thank you for your good intentions, Alchemist Chen. There's no need for that. Chun Yin couldn't help but look higher of him. Although he didn't have much contact with Lin Bai, he could tell Lin Bai was composed and fearless in the face of danger. Even if his life was threatened, he could still maintain his composure. This kind of tenacity was not common. It was also the most suitable for refining pills. Thinking of this, Chun Yin felt rather emotional. I didn't expect you to be able to refine a grade 7 pill at such a young age. Have you done it before? Lin Bai shook his head and answered truthfully, this is my first time refining a grade 7 spirit replenishing pill. Chen Yin looked as if he had just heard a fairy tale and revealed an expression of disbelief. You mean that today is your first time refining a grade 7 spirit replenishing pill and you've succeeded? You've never refined it before? He tried to find a joking expression on Lin Bai's face, but Lin Bai nodded his head firmly. Chen Yin knew that since he was able to refine a grade 7 spirit replenishing pill, there was no need for him to joke and boast on such matters. He revealed an expression of approval. I didn't expect your talent to be so high. You were able to refine it successfully in one go. Of course, luck could not be excluded from this. However, strength was also a part of luck. Then what other medicinal pills have you refined before? Lin Bai casually mentioned a few names. They were all commonly seen medicinal pills that could restore qi and blood or detoxify poison. They were not as high-grade as the spirit replenishing pill. From this, it could be seen that Lin Bai's talent was simply astonishing. He was able to refine them just by getting started. From this, Chen Yin was even more certain of his inner thoughts. Just as he was about to say something, a divine light suddenly appeared. The jade pendant on Chen Yin's body lit up, and he frowned. He took out a token from his storage bag and handed it to Lin Bai. Take this. Come and look for me at the Alchemist Association tomorrow. When the time comes, I'll explain it to you clearly. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first. Lin Bai took the token from his hand. It was an antique wooden token, and he could faintly smell an indescribable medicinal fragrance. It was refreshing and felt a little cold to the touch. Chen Yin did not explain clearly why he came to look for him, so he left in a hurry. The light just now should have been a voice transmission talisman, but he did not know what had happened. However, Lin Bai did not return to the Xiao family. Instead, he chose to go to the Spirit Gathering Pavilion. The most important thing now should be to increase his strength as soon as possible. If he was powerful, he did not have to fear the He family. He had a feeling that even if Chen Yin guaranteed him, He Linqing would definitely not let it go easily. However, he also secretly held back. I'm afraid that you won't be able to afford to use the grade 7 spirit replenishing pill that I refined. Lin Bai revealed a meaningful smile. The Spirit Gathering Pavilion was the most suitable place to cultivate, with no one disturbing them and spiritual energy surrounding it. Lin Bai sat cross-legged, and a green light flashed across his body at the same time. Little green coiled around his arm, and it wasn't as small and thin as it used to be. It coiled around his wrist like an ornament and was heavy now. I'll impart my cultivation to you this time. After all, Little Green had been by his side for the longest time, and its strength was also the strongest. It also had the skill Cloud Summoning Rain, which could trap enemies. Moreover, after leveling up, it could even trap halfway grandmasters. It could be used to attack or defend, and it was the most suitable. Lin Bai decided to put the black tortoise aside for the time being. Ding! The host has passed Little Green 20 days of cultivation. The 100 times return has been successfully triggered. The host has obtained 2,000 days of cultivation. Boundless spiritual energy gushed out like a spring, enveloping the two of them. Every pore on Lin Bai's body was flickering with divine light, making him look like a god descending to the mortal world. No one dared to look at him directly. On the other side, He Linqing was a little unhappy. Father, uncle, how could we let this brat leave? He Qiqing took a step forward and said, Big brother, I don't think it's appropriate to do this. Although he has refined a 7th grade spirit replenishing pill, Linqing has suffered a lot because of this. Even if we don't want that brat's life, we should at least give him a taste of his own medicine. Moreover, he has contradicted us repeatedly before. He doesn't respect us at all. He Fan looked at them expressionlessly. Otherwise, what do you want me to do? Suppress Chen Yin and him together. Can't you see that Chen Yin is determined to protect him? He Linqing was still frantically denouncing Lin Bai. But now that our He family has already formed a grudge with him, what if Chen Yin takes a fancy to him and lets him enter the Alchemist Association? Then, what if he comes to settle the score with us? That's right, big brother. What Linqing said isn't without reason. He Shueyao, on the other hand, spoke up in an appropriate manner. It's not a deep-seated feud. I think it's better to end it here. Even if he wants to take revenge in the future, it won't be something that can be done in a short period of time. Moreover, he has to at least take into account Alchemist Chin's face. He Lynching glanced at He Shueyao with a sinister look, as if he was somewhat dissatisfied with her. He Fan hesitated for a moment, and also felt that what He Shueyao said was quite reasonable. Moreover, it was not appropriate to attack Lin Bai now. After pondering for a moment, he said, "This matter ends here. Rest well and recuperate. It will take some time for the meridians in your body to recover to their original state. Do not hinder the Academy's competition." He Fan left after saying these words. He Lynching, who was laying on the bed, was extremely indignant. His face was filled with resentment. When only the father and son were left in the room, He Chicheng revealed a smile. "My son, do not be angry. It is not good to be angry and damage your body." He Lynching gnashed his teeth. "I was humiliated so badly that I almost lost my life. Uncle let that person go so easily. I'm really unwilling. Look at this." As He Chicheng formed a spell, a light screen appeared in the air. It was the scene of Lin Bai walking into the spirit gathering pavilion. He Lynching said excitedly, "Father, you." The He family had a spell called the tracking spell. It could detect a person's whereabouts without anyone noticing. Even powerful people were extremely easy to fall for it. There were pros and cons, but the only drawback was that it was short-lived. However, this was enough for He Lynching and his son to grasp Lin Bai's movements. He's really audacious. Instead of returning to the Shao family, he went to the spirit gathering pavilion. "Don't worry, I've already sent someone to strangle him. I'll definitely avenge you." He Lynching was immediately overjoyed. "Thank you, father." When Lin Bai entered the cultivation room, the light screen gradually disappeared. A malicious glint flickered in his eyes, as if he had already seen Lin Bai's fate of having his head chopped off. Lin Bai still did not know that he had been hit by the He family's tracking spell. By the time he walked out of the spirit gathering pavilion, the sky was gradually turning dark. There were already people waiting for him. Little Green was still hovering on his arm as if it had sensed something. It hissed, and Lin Bai stopped in his tracks. He turned around, but there was nothing. The people behind him followed Lin Bai all the way, but they were getting more and more remote. They had actually reached the dense forest in the suburbs. This was clearly not the way back to the Shao family. Just as they were puzzled, Lin Bai, who was walking at the front, suddenly stopped and said in a deep voice, "You've been following me for so long, and you've been hiding yourself. It's time for you to come out and meet me, right?" The four of them were shocked. They thought that they were powerful and were good at hiding. Logically speaking, it should be impossible for Lin Bai to discover them, but was obvious that he had discovered them long ago. "Don't tell me you want me to invite you out?" As his voice fell, a green light rushed over. It was Little Green, which was hovering on his arm, and launched a fierce attack at them. They were caught unprepared and had no choice but to reveal themselves. According to the previous news, they knew that Lin Bai had a fire attribute mutated Red One and was very powerful. He had specially brought a water attribute magical treasure to deal with it, but they actually didn't know that he had a pet beast, Green Snake. It seemed that his strength wasn't weak either. Four thin people stood in four different positions in the north, south, east, and west of Lin Bai, surrounding him. The leader of the group asked in a hoarse voice, "How did you find us?" Lin Bai did not answer his question. He said indifferently, "The four of you really think highly of me." The people of the Shao family really liked to go back on their words. The four men were not angry when they heard this. They only revealed a vicious smile. "You can only play with your words now. In a while, you will become an ice-cold corpse." Lin Bai did not panic or fear when he heard this. Instead, he said meaningfully, "Is that so?" The four of them did not want to waste any more words. They launched their attacks with great tacit understanding. For streams of spiritual power with an unstoppable sharpness approached one after another. They interweaved into a huge net that covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping Lin Bai within. He stood on the spot with almost no way to escape. The surrounding murderous aura raged, forming gusts of strong wind that blew the grass and trees, causing them to sway. The tall tree that was half the height of a human was broken with a sound. One could imagine what would happen if one accidentally touched it. At this moment, Lin Bai was like a small boat floating on an endless ocean. Any wave would be able to swallow him, and his people. I thought he would be very powerful, but he is just us. The four of them revealed contemptuous smiles, waiting to see Lin Bai being torn into pieces so that they could return and report back. Just as they were about to give Lin Bai a fatal blow, they felt that the spiritual energy was a little sluggish. This feeling was fleeting, so they did not take it to heart. Several rays of spiritual light burst out at the same time and landed on Lin Bai's body. However, like a flower in a mirror or a moon in water, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. It was as if he had evaporated into thin air, leaving behind only a mass of pale green gas. The four of them looked around, but they did not see Lin Bai's shadow. What happened? Why is he gone? Just as they were feeling bewildered, Lin Bai's ghostly voice came from beside them. You guys are just OSO. Little Green swung its tail like a divine dragon. Its green scales were incomparably sharp, like sharp blades that slashed across their faces, leaving them dizzy and disoriented. When they focused their eyes, they saw that the beast had already circled behind them. How is this possible? They were so shocked that they could not speak. Only then did they realize that a layer of light green gas had appeared around them since some unknown time ago. It was similar to the color of Little Green's body. Even the blood on the wounds on their faces had a faint green color. The few of them finally realized that they had fallen into Little Green's illusion. The scariest thing was that they hadn't noticed it at all. Everyone, be careful. This snake can create an environment to confuse people. Not only that, the green fog also contained poison. It traveled along the blood in their meridians. By the time they noticed it, their movements had already slowed down for a moment. Damn it, you actually poisoned us in secret. The few of them cursed loudly. Lin Bai said innocently, Little Green is poisonous to begin with. Even though I poisoned you, it's quite fair and square. The beast's eyes flickered with a sparkling green light. Little Green suddenly opened its mouth. The pale green fog, with Lin Bai as the center, spread rapidly in all directions, forming many ropes that trapped the four of them. The last seen was a plain wooden sword, which was reflected in their eyes. Seeing that Lin Bai was still not coming back, he and the others could not sit still any longer. Chun Yin had already woken up. When he found out what had happened after that, he was filled with regret. If I had been able to swallow my anger back then, perhaps none of this would have happened. Not only did I implicate Senior Brother Bai, but now it's unknown if Senior Brother Lin is even dead or alive. Everyone consoled him. This isn't your fault. Besides, you didn't say anything back then. It was he lynching and the others who went too far and initiated the attack. We were also forced into a corner. Chun Yin revealed a bitter smile. I'll take responsibility for what I did. If worst comes to worst, I'll go to the He family in exchange for Senior Brother Lin and the others. I'll bear all the blame alone. Since you're going, bring me along too. The others were the same. As soon as someone spoke, many people responded. After all, He had been plotted against by He lynching and lost his fighting strength. If Lin Bai had not stepped forward, they would not have ended up well. Now that the He family came to ask for him, and it was Lin Bai who stepped forward, they could not pretend that nothing had happened. I don't believe that the He family is that powerful. Don't tell me that they are going to detain all of us there. The crowd was in high spirits. Just as they were about to rush to the He family to ask for Lin Bai, the teachers shouted, "You are too rash." The teachers didn't agree. First, Lin Bai wasn't a student of their academy. There was no need to take such a big risk and offend He family. Moreover, if something really happened to Lin Bai, it would be useless for them to go. There might even be a conflict. The He family did not care about their lives at all. The Xiao family's attitude was obvious here. Clearly, they would not stand up for them. When that time came, they would not even have a place to find someone to reason with. If the He family has ill intentions against Lin Bai, what use is it for you to go? You might even suffer along with him. The bloody reality was before everyone's eyes. Even though these teachers were grateful for Lin Bai's actions, they could not help but have some selfish motives. They did not wish for their academy's disciples to make meaningless sacrifices. Moreover, what they said was also reasonable. For a moment, everyone was caught in a struggle. If they did not go, it would appear to be unethical. After all, Lin Bai was in a dangerous situation because of them. If they went, it was very likely that they would not be able to change anything. In fact, they might even make meaningless sacrifices. Why don't we go and beg the Xiao family? If they can come forward, there might be a chance for this matter to turn around. Forget it. They're just like playing the mediator. Can't you see their previous attitude? There's no reason for them to become enemies with the He family for our sake. This won't do either. That won't do either. What else can we do? We can't just wait here, right? Everyone's gaze fell on Bai He. Senior brother Bai, why don't you tell us what we should do now? Bai's gaze was calm, as if there was snow gathering in his eyes. He seemed extremely cold. I'll go alone. Although he looked extremely cold on the outside and gave off a feeling that it wasn't easy to get close to him, he was actually a person who would stand up for his friends and be extremely loyal to them. Everyone did not agree when they heard this. Senior brother Bai, how can you do this? Your injuries have not recovered yet, and you had a direct conflict with He Linsheng. How can he let you go? If you go now, you'll be like a lamb in the tiger's mouth. You won't be able to return. Why don't we beg the Xiao family again? Soon, a group of academy disciples requested to see Xiao Feng. After Xiao Feng learned the purpose of this group of people's visit, he sneered and said, "They really think highly of themselves. Do they think that I will go and save them just because so many people are begging me? Perhaps Lin Bai is the murderer of my son." Even if he was not, Xiao Feng did not need to go and provoke the He family for an insignificant figure. Go and tell them that I am in solitary cultivation and it is not convenient for me to deal with these things. We will talk about it after I come out of solitary cultivation. After hearing the servant's replies, the disciples of the academy knew that this was Xiao Feng's excuse. They had seen him yesterday, but now he was in solitary cultivation today. Who was he trying to trick? Bai said patiently, "Please report for us again. After all, a person's life is at stake. If Master Xiao is willing to help us, we'll definitely be grateful." When the Xiao family disciples heard this, they immediately revealed a disdainful look. "Our master has shown mercy and allowed you to come to the capital. With such a good opportunity to learn and interact with each other, it's fine if you don't cherish it, but you're causing trouble everywhere. Now, you want us to wipe your asses? You're simply dreaming." These words were not polite at all, and the group of disciples were a little agitated. How can you say that? It was clearly He Linsheng who caused trouble first. How did it become our fault instead? The Xiao family had looked down on them for a long time. After all, they had come from a small place. They did not understand why Xiao Feng would do this. It was simply a waste of time and energy. It's your fault for not weighing your own status and strength. Instead, you insisted on confronting others head-on. Now that something has happened, you just ask for help? Hearing this, everyone felt extremely angry. Third elder, fourth elder, and the others rushed over when they heard the news. They sneered and said, "I'll give you some face. Don't be too greedy. Otherwise, you'll go back to where you came from." These words were not polite at all. Everyone felt extremely angry. They had never felt so aggrieved before. Just when they were feeling a little anxious and angry, a cold male voice sounded with some doubt. "What are you all standing here for?" Everyone thought that they were hearing things. "What's going on? I think I heard senior brother Lin's voice." "I think I heard it too." The elders looked as if they had seen a ghost. Who else could it be but Lin Bai? Senior brother Lin. Everyone swarmed over. Lin Bai was surrounded. Seeing that he was unharmed and that there were no wounds on his body, the hanging ears of the other students finally settled down. "They didn't make things difficult for you, right? It's really great seeing senior brother Lin come back safe and sound. We were all very worried about you, and senior brother Bai even said that he was going to look for you." "Oh right. Why did they let you go back, senior brother Lin?" Everyone was talking so much that Lin Bai could not stand their enthusiasm. The third elder and the others did not expect Lin Bai to come back unharmed. Why would the He family let him go so easily? I know He Linsheng's personality. Although his cultivation is not bad, he is narrow-minded and vengeful. Logically speaking, he would not let him go so easily. The elders looked at each other, not knowing what had happened. Third elder could not help but ask, "Did the He family not make things difficult for you?" Lin Bai smiled faintly. "Why? Seeing that I returned safely, third elder seems to be very disappointed. After being rebuked by him in a sarcastic manner, Third Elder looked embarrassed and did not say anything more. Could it be that the He family has changed their personalities? When He Chiching and the others came to the door, they were very aggressive. Everyone could see that they wanted to punish Lin Bai and the others right away. Who would have thought that Lin Bai would return unscathed? They watched coldly as the crowd escorted Lin Bai to the courtyard where he was resting. When Lin Bai returned to his room, he received the highest treatment. A junior brother jogged over and brought over a chair. "Senior brother Lin, you must be tired from your trip. Hurry up and rest." Seeing his warm and grateful smile, Lin Bai was embarrassed to refuse. Just as he sat down, someone beside him immediately brought up a teacup. "Senior brother Lin, this is the Dragonwell tea that was just brewed before the rain. Hurry up and have a taste." There were even people who wanted to massage his shoulders and legs. Lin Bai almost reflexively threw him over his shoulders. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry at their actions. "All right, you guys don't have to do this. I'm not used to others doing this." When everyone heard that their actions were too exaggerated, they scratched their heads in embarrassment. "Senior brother Lin, we're very grateful to you. We just want to express our gratitude. If you're not used to it, then forget it." It was unknown who laughed, but everyone's laughter rose and fell. After this incident, the distance between everyone became much closer. "By the way, senior brother Lin, has that He lynching woken up?" Lin Bai nodded. "Otherwise, how else would the He family let me go so easily?" Chun Yin was a little puzzled. But if that's the case, based on He Lynching's personality, how could he let it go so easily? He wanted to say something but hesitated. Everyone understood what Chun Yin meant. After all, it was just a small quarrel back then. He Lynching was vicious enough to want to cripple their cultivation, not to mention that Lin Bai had offended him twice in a row and even made him lose face. He would never let Lin Bai off. Seeing that everyone was so curious about the reason, Lin Bai began to tell them what happened in the He family. No one noticed that a black shadow flashed by the door. "What?" Third Elder almost stood up from his chair in shock. Lin Bai has actually refined a 7th-grade spirit replenishing pill. Xiao Feng, who had just announced to the public that he was in solitary cultivation, was now sitting in the main seat. Even though he had experienced many storms, he was still a little surprised when he heard this news. "Did you hear wrongly? Lin Bai really said that?" The Xiao family disciple nodded. "I didn't hear wrongly. Lin Bai did say that. He even took out a wooden token. I saw it very clearly. He said that alchemist Qin Yin gave it to him." Xiao Feng's expression changed when he heard this. "What wooden token?" "The patterns on it are very simple. There seems to be a plant in the middle, but I don't know what exactly it is." His tone paused as if he had thought of something. "Also, I can faintly smell a medicinal fragrance." When he mentioned the wooden token, Xiao Feng was certain that it should be the Alchemist Association. No one would be so bold as to dare to forge the Alchemist Association's wooden token. Moreover, even if it was fake, that unique medicinal fragrance could not be faked. It should be the Alchemist Association's token. Looks like this kid is really lucky. Alchemist Qin actually saved him. Xiao Feng and the others also knew about Qin Yan's existence. He was a somewhat famous alchemist in the capital city. However, this was not the most surprising thing. It was that he was actually able to refine a grade 7 spirit replenishing pill. He was actually able to refine a pill that even Qin Yin was unable to refine. Not to mention a grade 7 pill, a grade 5 pill is already at the peak of existence in that small place of theirs. How did Lin Bai have such a high aptitude? It seems that this person is really a little strange. Then should we continue to monitor them now? Xiao Feng said firmly, "Of course, we should continue to monitor them." Fourth Elder hesitated and said, "But now that Lin Bai has a relationship with the Alchemist Association, will it affect our subsequent plans?" Xiao Feng shook his head. "There's no need to worry about that for the time being. It's just an elementary token. So what if Lin Bai can refine the 7th grade spirit replenishing pill? Perhaps he's just lucky. Although it's rare, it's not the most precious one." Even though he said that, Xiao Feng still had some strange feelings toward Lin Bai. If Lin Bai could refine a grade 7 spirit replenishing pill, it would not mean that he could refine a higher level pills in the future. The next morning, Lin Bai was ready to set off for the Alchemist Association. It was located halfway up the mountain. The peak of the mountain was shrouded in clouds all year round. It was said that it was because of the vapors produced during the alchemy process that caused such a scene. Seeing his arrival, Chun Yin nodded. "You're quite punctual. Come with me." Lin Bai did not ask what was going on. Chun Yin did not speak either. The two of them walked forward one after the other. They saw green trees all around them. There were towering ancient trees everywhere. Rings of growth were densely packed. It was already hard to count them. There were also quite a number of green medicinal plants. Although the varieties were not particularly precious, they were like grass growing by the roadside. They looked flourishing and prosperous. Chen Yin did not mind at all and said, "These are all casually planted by the members of the association. They're extremely easy to survive. You don't need to care about the seeds that are planted. However, the medicinal fields in the association are different. They are all extremely precious medicinal herbs that are cultivated by people." As they walked deeper, their field of vision